a message to all the white people out there who are watching my videos, specifically those who can trace their lineage back to the Crusades. First of all, I can't even believe that this needs to be said, but given some of the comments I'm seeing under my videos and posts on social media, I have now realized how much you have been lied to about your own history. Stop apologizing for the Crusades. Yeah, I said that. Stop apologizing for the Crusades. I mean, what exactly did you think happened that led to the Crusades? Do you just think that, I don't know, everyone was living peacefully and then all of a sudden one day random white Christian people woke up and decided to go murder Muslims? Is that what you think happened? The Crusades were a response to Arab Muslim colonizers trying to invade Europe. The Crusades were literally a response to jihad. Do you forget what happened to Spain? Do you not recall how Spain was conquered by the Arab Muslim invaders for 700 years before the Spaniards and the Christians were able to fight back and reclaim Spain? The only reason that you're not speaking Arabic and your women aren't wearing burqas is literally because of the Crusades. How do you think the Arab Muslim invaders conquered Persia, conquered the Persian Empire, and forced everyone to convert to Islam? Do you think they came with pamphlets and brochures? What, do you think they just went around knocking peacefully on doors? They came with violence, they came with bloodshed, they came with beheadings, they came with rape. They murdered everyone and anyone who didn't convert to Islam. They burned libraries. They destroyed temples. They even forced us to speak Arabic for 200 years until we were able to secretly revive our language, Persian. Did you know that we Iranians have been fighting back against the Arab Muslim colonizers for the last 1400 years, and we are still trying to decolonize from that invader colonial mindset and ideology? Do you see this man? That's not a crusader. He's an Iranian. This is Babak Khorramdin. He's an Iranian revolutionary leader from the early 800s. He was fighting the Arab Muslim colonizers who had invaded Persia 150 years ago, and he was trying to free Persia from the jihadis. Unfortunately, at the age of 40, he was captured by the Arabs and he was pretty much torn apart limb from limb. And yet, you know what we Iranians do? We celebrate him. Babak Khorramdin is one of the most important Iranian figures in our history. Why? Because he was fighting the Arab Muslim invaders who had invaded Persia 150 years ago. We don't apologize. We don't apologize. We don't justify. We don't make excuses. In fact, we're still fighting. We are still fighting to overthrow the Arab Muslim invaders and to reclaim our country from the Islamic dictatorship. So we have been fighting for 1400 years. Unfortunately, unlike you white people, we still have not been successful. If you need more convincing that the Crusades were a good thing and that the Crusades actually saved Europe from the Arab Muslim invaders, here is a 5-minute video from Dr. Bill Warner. Pay attention because this is kind of important.
Whenever you're dealing with an apologist for Islam or even a Muslim and you bring up jihad, almost immediately they kick back to you, well, what about those terrible crusades? Why, they're the moral justification for jihad. I mean, we're just as bad as they are, so let's not talk about jihad, okay? Let's talk about the crusades. Well, what I would like to talk about here are facts. And it turns out I sat down and put together some work and I created a database of some 548 battles that Islam fought, jihad battles against classical civilization. And this aren't even all the battles. It really doesn't say much about Africa and India, Afghanistan and all that. It's primarily the battles against the classical civilization of Rome and Greece. So, 548 battles is a lot, and it's too much to even comprehend. So I created something which I call a dynamic battle map, in which you have a display of the Mediterranean, and a white dot means that this 20-year period, that's a new battle. So every time the screen changes, it's 20-year period. The colors white turn to red, and so you can see a history. This may seem a little confusing, but I think when you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. And here it starts. Islam burst out of the Arabian Peninsula and immediately starts attacking the Middle East. And notice that it doesn't take long until they're crossing the.
So do you see here? Do you see how within, the span of just a couple of decades, Iran became conquered, right? That's jihad. And like I said, they didn't come with flowers and pamphlets. They came with violence, death, destruction, rape, and forced conversions.
Mediterranean and attacking southern France and Spain. Notice something here. Most people think of Islam, they think of Arabs, they think of desert, and yet here we see that Islam is projecting power throughout the Mediterranean.
Also, pay attention. Do you see Spain? At this point, Spain has been conquered by the Arab Muslim invaders. And again, every single red dot here, every single red dot is an instance of jihad. That is a battle that was initiated by the Arab Muslim invaders. Okay, so pay attention to these dots because we're then going to compare these dots of jihad versus the dots of the Crusades.
Notice how the little islands of the Mediterranean are getting hammered. The navy of Islam would attack coastal towns, kill, rob, rape, and then take slaves. So this whole battle map, as it unfolds, you're seeing slaves being taken. Over 1 million slaves were taken out of Europe into the Islamic world. That's something you don't think about much, but it's absolutely true. There were over 200 battles fought in Spain alone. And we also see, however, on the east coast in Turkey, that Islam is trying to break into Europe. Now, what's going to happen is, in Spain, this ongoing fight that lasted for 400 years, is the Christians are going to push back the Muslims. But now then what has happened over in the east is that Constantinople has fallen, and now then Eastern Europe is getting hammered. The jihad now comes to Eastern Europe. It's pushed out now of Spain. Northern Africa is now completely Islamic. The Middle East is completely Islamic. This is all jihad, relentless jihad. And why is it so relentless? Well, Muhammad was relentless in his jihad. And these people are good students of Islam, and so it's against the kafir, on and on. It was traditional that when the Sultan came to power, the brand new Sultan, he would immediately try to launch new wars because he was going to be noted in his Islamic history as to how well he fought against the kafir. So that's what the jihad looked like over that time period, 548 battles. But remember, when you bring up jihad, people want to bring up the Crusades. So I also prepared a dynamic battle map of all the offensive raids of the Crusaders. Let's watch it and make a comparison. And so it begins. The Crusades enter into Turkey and the Middle East. Battles go on, but aren't there far fewer than you thought there might be? And here we go. The last battles are...
That's it. Do you see these dots here? That is every single crusade. You can't even you can't even compare, there's literally no comparison between Islamic jihad and the Crusades.
fought, and that is the end of the Crusades. So now then we can talk about some facts. Yes, there were Crusades, but notice they ended centuries ago, and jihad is being practiced today. Jihad has been with us for 1,400 years. There is no comparison between jihad and the Crusades, certainly not a moral comparison. And when you're looking at the Crusades, remember, in one sense, all of the Crusades were defensive wars. Why? Well, as we saw on the first jihad map, it was Islam that came out of Arabia and conquered the Middle East, a Christian Middle East. And so the Crusaders were trying to free their Christian brothers and sisters from jihad. So there's no moral comparison at all. The motivation of the Crusaders was to free Christians. The purpose of jihad is to enslave the kafir.
Was that clear enough for you guys? So, what's the lesson that we have learned today? Stop apologizing for the Crusades. The Crusades were justified. The Crusades were defensive. Stop letting people who hate you and who want to take over your countries and your civilizations, stop allowing them to rewrite history and stop allowing them to paint you as the aggressors in order to guilt trip you into appeasing their intolerance of your countries and your traditions and your values. Because again, as an Iranian, I'm telling you right now, I wish that Iran had been able to have something similar to what the Crusades were, because then maybe my country wouldn't be under an Islamic occupation and it wouldn't be a 7th century Islamic hellhole governed by Sharia law. And now you know.